You're not broken. You're exhausted. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just constantly. Your life still works. You still show up. You still do what's expected of you. But each day takes more out of you than the last. So you start explaining it to yourself. Life is too heavy. This job isn't right. Maybe you're not as capable as you used to be. But here's what you don't consider. Nothing may be wrong. You may have simply been going non-stop for too long without ever stopping. This isn't new. An old story begins here. There was once a young woodcutter known in the village for one thing. He worked harder than anyone else. Every morning, before the sun rose, he was already in the forest, swinging his axe, again and again and again. When others rested, he kept going. When his arms shook, he told himself, just one more tree. When his hands blistered, he thought, this is what real work feels like. For a long time, the blade was sharp. The cuts were clean. The wood opened easily. But slowly, over years, the edge began to fade. Not enough to stop him, not enough to worry him, just enough to ask for more effort each day. Strangely, day after day, he cut fewer trees than before. The wood resisted him. The axe slid instead of biting. Each strike felt heavier than the last. An old woodcutter watched quietly. He didn't interrupt. He didn't hurry. Finally, he asked, "When was the last time you sharpened your blade?" The young man froze. He tried to remember, but the days blurred together. "I don't have time," he said. "I'm too busy working." The old man smiled gently. "That's why," he said, "your work keeps getting harder, even though you're trying just as much." He didn't say more. The forest was quiet. The young man looked at his blade. Still usable, still familiar, just worn. And for the first time, he wondered how long it had been since it last felt sharp. The old woodcutter didn't rush the moment. He didn't tell the young man what to do next. He didn't say the blade was ruined. He didn't say the young man had done anything wrong. He only asked one question, not to instruct, not to fix, just to pause what was happening. Most of us don't pause. When something begins to feel harder, we immediately look for an explanation. We say we're getting older. We say the work has changed. We say this is just how life is now. And maybe all of that is true. But notice how quickly we decide. We decide that the problem is effort, so we add more of it. We decide that the problem is ourselves, so we push harder, tighten more, expect more. The young man didn't stop because nothing felt broken enough. The blade still worked. The job still got done. What changed was subtle. The effort increased. The return slowly shrank. That's why it's easy to miss. The danger isn't failure. It's familiarity. When something becomes gradually heavier, we don't question it. We adapt. We call it discipline. We call it responsibility. We call it being an adult. The old woodcutter didn't argue with any of that. He didn't say the young man should stop working. He didn't say the blade needed to be fixed immediately. He left the meaning open. Because the moment you decide too early what something is, you stop listening to it. You stop noticing what is actually changing. Sometimes the most important thing is not the answer, but delaying the answer. Some things don't need force, they need attention. There is a day when nothing really happens. No deadlines waiting, no urgent calls, no problems that need fixing. He wakes up without an alarm. stays in bed a little longer than usual, not because he's exhausted, but because there's nowhere he has to be. The morning unfolds slowly. He makes coffee, looks out the window for a moment, does a few small things around the house. Nothing difficult, nothing demanding. Time feels wide, almost empty. By midday, he eats without much thought. Food tastes fine. Everything is normal. In the afternoon, he sits down and scrolls on his phone. Not out of boredom, not out of stress. It's just something his hands know how to do. Hours pass without friction. No pressure, no urgency. The day doesn't push him, it doesn't ask anything from him. Evening arrives quietly. Lights come on. The house settles. When he finally lies down at night, he notices something. His body feels heavy, not sore, not injured, not sick, just tired. He runs through the day in his mind, trying to locate the source. The morning was easy. The afternoon was calm. The evening was uneventful. Nothing went wrong. Nothing asked too much. Still, the tiredness is there. It doesn't feel new. It doesn't belong to today. It feels older than the day itself. Like something that's been carried for a long time, quietly, without being noticed. There is a time when he starts trying harder, not because things are falling apart, but because they're no longer moving as easily as before. The same tasks take longer. Simple decisions feel heavier. He rereads things he used to understand at a glance, so he adjusts. He wakes up earlier, stays more focused, pushes himself to be sharper. He tells himself, this is discipline. This is what it takes. For a while, it seems to work, at least on the surface, but underneath, something slows. He needs more effort to get the same result, more concentration to avoid small mistakes, more time to finish what once felt natural. He starts noticing the gap between how much he gives and how little comes back. That gap feels uncomfortable. So he closes it the only way he knows how, by trying harder. He skips breaks. He tightens his schedule. He tells himself he'll rest later, but the pace keeps dropping. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just enough to notice. By the end of the day, he feels spent, not because he worked more than before, but because everything asked more from him. He tells himself he's just tired, that tomorrow will be better. Still, a quiet thought appears. Why does it feel like the more I push, the slower I move? At some point, many of us begin to believe that difficulty means we should try harder. If things slow down, we push. If effort stops working, we add more. And when the results don't come back the way they used to, we turn it inward. Something must be wrong with me. I'm not focused enough. I'm not disciplined enough. But what if none of that is true? What if the tiredness that shows up on quiet days and the slowness that appears when you push harder are not signs of weakness, but signs of wear? The blade didn't fail. It didn't stop working. It simply grew dull, little by little, over a long time. And dullness doesn't announce itself loudly. It feels ordinary. It feels familiar. That's why it's so easy to mistake it for who we are. Not everything that feels difficult is asking for more effort. Some things don't need to be forced. They need to be noticed. If you're feeling slower, heavier, or tired without a clear reason, it doesn't mean something is wrong. It may simply mean it's been a long time since the blade was last sharpened. And for now, you don't have to decide what that means. You can just stay with the feeling a little longer.